another episode of Wheels of Fury.
Hey,
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah. Continuing on the journey,
Yeah.
looking back at Royal Rumbles. First off, we did Royal Rumble 88, the very first Royal Rumble. Then we did Royal Rumble 95. And tonight, we got a double banger. We got Royal Rumble 02 and Royal Rumble 2016. Right now, we're talking about Royal Rumble 2002.
Yeah, I mean, so it was kind of cool because, 2002, in my opinion, was another really good year that I don't necessarily bring up.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, it was fun because you knew that WrestleMania was going to be at the Sky Dome in Toronto, and you knew that earlier in the month, Triple H came back for his triumphant return.
Yes.
And yeah, so you automatically knew. I mean, maybe you didn't know, but it seemed like the match would eventually go to Triple H.
Yeah.
I mean, it was either him or, I was a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, obviously, and I know he won the year before, but you never knew. Well, I mean, those were my two picks.
Yeah. With Triple H having just came back, I think it was like a few weeks prior to Royal Rumble that year.
Yeah.
Being off for 8 months, recovering from the first time he blew out his quad.
Yeah.
And still one of the standout memories of, amazing returns, if you will. Triple H's return in Madison Square Garden, and just the reception he got is just amazing. And I had seen an interview he did, it was WWE.com or something along those lines, whatever, and he was talking about it that night, and he was like, I've been away for 8 months, what if the crowd doesn't react, what if I get crickets, what if there's no pop, all these thoughts going through his mind, and then once that first riff of Motorhead hit and the crowd pops, like, okay, I got nothing to worry about.
No. It's like, I started welling up. And I was like, I can't go out there with tears in my eyes, so I gotta figure this out.
Yeah. Gotta get it together real quick.
Yeah. But, it's kind of interesting, because I was in school in the resource room on a computer, just fucking around. And I thought, well, I taped Raw.
Right.
So I'm going to watch it when I get home, but I'm going to see the results anyway. So I went on there, and sure enough, there it was. But when I watched it, it was like, wow, he definitely swelled up during his time in rehab.
Yeah, he put on some muscle. He was in really good shape when he came back after, the injury, and yeah. And the thing with Triple H throughout his career, he tended to fluctuate in his body size.
Yeah.
Like, he could go for a period of time where he looked really jacked, and then a period of time where he kind of fell off the wagon, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then he'd have a period of time again where he looked really jacked, and, I had said this a while ago when we were talking about Super Showdown from 2 years ago, I think it was.
In 2018, so...
No.
Oh.
I'm talking about...
Oh.
Brothers of Destruction versus DX.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, I think that was 2018.
Anyway, and
Yeah.
I said that in Triple H's career,
Mm-hmm.
he would be generally between 255 and 275 pounds. And, really well muscled. Yeah, there would be some periods of time where he didn't have a lot of definition, and then, there were periods of time where he, looked really jacked.
Yeah.
Like, so he was within that weight area. I don't want to say limit because it wasn't really a limit, it's just kind of that gap, if
Yeah.
you will. 255 to 275. And then, he hadn't wrestled for a little while. This is, going into now him being, the COO of WWE and not wrestling as frequently and, having that match 2018. Him and Shawn against Kane and The Undertaker. Well, actually, I think it was. No, it was before that, actually.
Yeah.
The one final match between him and Taker.
And that's the one I was thinking of.
And they announced him at like 2:45, I think it was. Or something like that. It's like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, he's still in relatively good shape.
I mean, look, I understand that he's got a pacemaker,
Mm-hmm.
but so does Ric Flair, and you understand the harsh shit that went down last year.
Mm-hmm.
What's not to say that Paul doesn't have one left in him.
Maybe.
Like, I know he doesn't have to wrestle,
No.
but what a dream match if you're gonna have The Rock come back. And it's a big if. Triple H versus The Rock at WrestleMania. And yes, we had the Fatal 4-Way at 2000.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, having them one-on-one at WrestleMania would be a good idea. If that were to happen, if that were realistic, I don't know.
I mean, could it be possible? Yes. It would just be a matter of if Triple H would actually be wanting to do that.
Yeah, I know.
But nevertheless.
I mean, he's still relatively young enough, and that's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
But only time will tell. Anyways, let's get it on. So our first match was for the WWF Tag Team titles.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Spike and Taz versus the Dudley Boys. And yeah, this is when the Dudleys turned heel. Obviously Spike was still a face.
Mm-hmm.
Teamed up with Taz, and I guess they beat the Dudleys at first. I think it was on Raw, but I'm not quite sure.
Right.
They're the Tag Team champions. At the time, I thought it was a weird match.
Mm.
I mean, yeah, both guys are relatively the same height, but also wrestled in ECW.
All four of these guys did.
Well, I mean, yeah, I understand. But I was just trying to figure out why they paired those two together. What did you think?
I mean, is it an odd pairing? Yes. If you don't partner Spike with Taz, who else could you go with?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure.
That was the thing.
At the time, there wasn't too many people. But... And this was a really good match. I mean, obviously, all four guys were in ECW at one point.
Mm-hmm.
So, they really knew their shit. You know, I think the Dudleys obviously work well together, but hey, you know what? Taz and Spike retained.
Yep.
Taz did the Taz mission for the win,
Yes.
and I'm not quite sure who beat them for the titles.
Yeah, I don't
So-
even fucking remember.
I'll have to look it up.
Next we go on to for the Intercontinental Championship, William Regal versus Edge.
And this was cool. And I mean, I was always an Edge head. I think that him as the Intercontinental Champion was great. I mean, he had a lot of good matches with Christian.
Yeah.
And, you know, and when the invasion angle storyline bullshit ended, he had both the WCW United States Championship and the Intercontinental Championship. So, I mean, yeah, they threw the US title out eventually, but yeah, the thing with William Regal, and I mean, it was only a matter of time before they would slap a title on him.
Oh, yeah.
But this match was cool. I mean, from the get-go, William tried to use the Nux.
Yeah, William always had the Nux in his trunks, and the referee went into his trunks and pulled them out and took them away from him. And, you know, the match goes on, and Edge was going to go for a spear on Regal in the corner or something like that.
Yeah.
Regal pulls the referee in front of him, the referee goes down, and Regal somehow ended up getting the knocks and knocking out Edge and pinning him for the title.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Then we go on to Trish Stratus versus Jazz,
Yeah.
with Jacqueline as the special guest referee. And I think this is one of the few matches that Jacqueline was involved with before she left.
I think so, yeah.
So, this was an okay match. I mean, Jazz and Trish had a really good feud
Yeah.
that year. And I mean, unfortunately, if you watch our review for WrestleMania 18 or many others, or even if you watched it back then, obviously doesn't matter, but I mean, Trish lost the title.
Yeah.
Or well, she wasn't the champion at the time.
Yeah.
But she did go over in this match. And I'm not quite sure what the stipulate, if it was a, no, it doesn't seem like it.
No, it wasn't a stipulation match.
But, yeah, I'm not quite sure what side Jacqueline was on. If she was a face or a heel at this time.
Yeah, I'm not even sure.
But, you know, there's another one who had a good career in WWF.
Yeah.
You know, go all the way to WCW and other places that she's been wrestling and being friends of Ron Simmons and John Layfield. And,
Yeah.
you know, but I mean, also a member of the Hall of Fame. So that's awesome. And former women's champion. So, less I talk about PMS, the better.
Yeah, that was a odd name for a group.
Yeah.
Faction, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Then you go on to a street fight between Mr. McMahon and Ric Flair.
Yeah.
I think this is for control over Monday Night Raw or something.
Yeah.
Shit like that.
No, it was. I mean, Rick came back, and, you know, and it really sucked because a lot of people still complain about, well, the invasion happened. You didn't have Goldberg, you didn't have Sting, you didn't have Flair, you didn't have NWO. But as soon as it all ended, you know, first guy coming back for the first episode of, you know, WWF Victory was Ric Flair. And then, of course, him and Vince become partners. And it eventually would turn out that, well, Rick had SmackDown, Vince had Raw, or vice versa. But, yeah, this was a really good match. And despite the fact that, you know what, I've never been a fan of Ric Flair, you can't really help but respect him.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, this guy was one of the most, the dirtiest player in the game.
Yep.
And, as much as Vince is kind of a shitty wrestler, he still had that physique at his age at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at WrestleMania last year, and he still kind of has the muscle.
Like, it's not as defined as it was back then, but he still pretty much got it.
Man, I can't wait to fucking see what happens when he turns, 80. But anyway.
Yeah.
This was cool. Both guys bled. Big surprise, Ric Flair match and his blood.
Yeah, exactly.
There was points where I think you had Rick's family in the corner. Rick had Vince had a camera, and he was decking Rick in front of the family, and
Right.
wanting to take a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Rick battled back, got the camera, and I can't remember who it was, but they took a picture of Rick biting Vince in the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically, everything was being used in the match. And dirtiest player in the game, obviously, Ric Flair ended up with getting the figure four leg lock and winning the match.
Yeah.
Gaining control of both shows.
Right.
Yeah, so. And, for what it's worth, I think that, yeah, as much as I didn't really care for Ric Flair, him being back in WWF was actually pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
I mean, whatever opinion you may have of Rick, positive or negative, you gotta fucking respect the man for what he did for the business.
Yeah.
He didn't two-time WWE Hall of Famer by accident.
No.
He fucking earned it.
Yep. Now you have this match for the undisputed title.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, the WWE undisputed title. You have Chris Jericho, the undisputed champion, versus The Rock.
They had some great matches against each other.
Yeah, and I kind of find it funny because the SmackDown Go Home show, you had Chris Jericho coming out to the ring, and basically he was standing next to The Rock and just berating him, and The Rock didn't really do too much, say too much, and Chris is all intense, and he eventually has tears in his eyes, and after the final say, Rock just cuts him down, and they didn't touch, I will say that. And that's the thing that I miss. A lot of go-home shows, you have the two guys facing each other, guys, girls, whatever, and they go at each other before the fucking pay-per-view. And it's just less is more. So, I mean, this was a good match, too. And I gotta hand it to Dwayne. Like, he really made Chris Jericho a main eventer.
Oh, fuck yeah.
I mean, here's a guy that went from being a cruiserweight in WCW, the tag team with Lance Storm and Smoky Mountain, going into Japan, Mexico. You had no idea that a cruiserweight could become the WWF champion.
Mm-hmm.
Or a heavyweight champion, for that matter. But
Yeah.
fucking Chris Jericho did that in Vengeance. It was the night he beat both The Rock and Stone Cold for the WCW, or in this case, the World title, and the WWF title. And yeah, so very good main eventer, as he would become. And this match was pretty cool. You didn't know which way this was gonna go.
Yeah.
But it was one of the few times, and I'm sure back then I didn't really give two shits, that I didn't really care that you had a wrestler with two titles.
Yeah.
I mean, you knew eventually it was going to be one. but still. I mean, this was cool, and yeah, basically Chris Jericho went over and retained.
I really think the whole thing about whether or not two wrestlers, fight each other, let's say, and go home show before a pay-per-view or not, really depends on the storytelling.
Yeah.
I think if you tell a really good story and final lead up to the match before, whatever pay-per-view it is, and that you can tell a really good story, not have them, have any physical contact. Other stories, maybe it's you need that physical altercation, so to speak, to really emphasize, oh man, these two guys don't like each other. Yes, you could do the same thing with them going back and forth and having a war of words and, whatever, but
Yeah.
I think it really all depends on the direction they want to go with the storyline and whether or not they... I don't want to say need, because it's not really need, but whether it's necessary for them to either, have whatever rivalry it is going into, let's say, Royal Rumble, and whether or not they need to, have that physical altercation or not.
I mean, so for example, like WrestleMania 6, before the match happened, Hogan and Warrior didn't touch. Like, even when they had the contract signing with Jack Tunney, you could say the same with Hogan and Andre. It was intense, but they didn't end up beating the shit out of each other.
I mean,
It came close,
yeah.
There's a point where Hogan, I'm not quite sure what was going on, but you were going to have Warrior deck him, but then Hogan turns around, and that didn't happen. So it was just a slight tease.
Yeah.
The only time I think I would appreciate seeing the two competitors fisticuffs or whatever, honestly, would be a contract signing. I don't
guess.
know. Maybe it's just, it would mean more if they waited until the actual event.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, maybe not so much now, because it's a premium live event. You don't pay for WWE events, whatever. Back then, you did. And it's almost like, okay, you want to see these two throw down, you're going to have to pay to see that happen.
Yeah.
So, I guess my thing is, why give it away for free?
And see... Okay, yeah, it's why give it away for free. It's again, though, the fact that, sometimes they can, tell a really good story and build it up enough to where the two whoever's having the match, let's say it's a title match, and the story's told well enough, you don't need to have them, brawl on a contract signing or have any physical altercation before the match.
No, that's true.
And sometimes I think it really all comes down to the way they are going with the story and whether or not it calls for two wrestlers, male or female, needing that physical altercation with each other to, really build up to the match at the pay or not.
Right.
And, like we said, there have been some really good instances where, you feel that despisal, that hatred, that I want to kick her fucking ass
Right.
before the pay-per-view, and they not touch. Yet you also get that same feeling when they do have an altercation. It goes either way.
It does, yeah. But, anyways. So then you had the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was cool. You had Goldust and Rikishi. Then The Undertaker. The Big Boss Man in his final WWF appearance. Actually, it was kind of cool because you were going to see a lot of people appear in the Royal Rumble, and they even advertised that, which I thought was cool. Because Godfather came back, somebody else came back, it could have been Boss Man, but then you had Mr. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you talk about Ric Flair coming back. It's like, it's very cool to see Kurt Hennig come back.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrestled for, what, a year?
I think so, yeah.
And then, unfortunately, because he couldn't stop doing Hook James Stone's aerobics, he got let go. So, he basically died shortly after that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but he had some good fights with like RVD, and you had Undertaker coming out, and then of course the Hardy Boys and Rita. You have Undertaker. He's gonna chokeslam that Lita, but then of course Lita gives him a low blow, which hopefully Undertaker will remember to.
We're a fucking cup!
Hell yeah. So, and it was interesting too, because this was Maven's debut.
Yep.
Maven was a Tough Enough winner.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was him and Nydia.
I believe so,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was an altercation. Undertaker threw somebody out, I can't remember who it was. And Maven gave him a drop kick, eliminated Undertaker, and you could just see the look on his face.
Like, that motherfucker just did that. I'm gonna whoop his ass. And did he ever?
Yeah. And, oh yeah, all over the ring.
Oh, yeah.
And fucking made Maven bleed.
All over the ring, up the steps, in the concession area,
Oh yeah.
threw him into one of those popcorn machines.
Oh yeah. I could see Taker enjoying some popcorn. And then, you have the point. Austin eliminates a few people. And he waits. And out comes the returning, aforementioned, Triple H.
Yep.
And they gave him the long entrance, which I thought was pretty cool at the time. You had the stare down with Austin. You have the two-man power trip reunion, so to speak, when Hurricane comes out. So that was fun.
Yeah.
But it all came down to you had Kurt Angle and Triple H as the last two guys. And, it was almost kind of like the 95 Rumble where you thought Kurt Angle won because you thought maybe Triple H would have been thrown out. But then Triple H came back into the ring and Kurt turns around, gets his ass beat again, and tossed out of the ring. So, obviously, yeah, the winner of the 2002 Royal Rumble, Triple H.
Yeah. And at this point in time, this was the longest Rumble. 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 22 seconds. And then that got surpassed in 2006 by Rey Mysterio. Only to have that surpassed, what was it, 2016? 17? Something like that. The Greatest Royal Rumble with Braun Strowman.
Oh, man, that would have been 18.
18?
Yeah, but You know what? Like I said, this was a really good show, and I really enjoyed 2002, and I was really excited to review this because I mean, yeah, every time we do a look back at, for me anyhow, and probably for you, it brings you back to that day.
Oh yeah. It brings you right back to that day and just, remembering the matches and the moments, and it's just so much fun.
And I know some people anyways, are like, I don't think Cody Rhodes should win the Rumble this year. And it's like, you look at 2002, you have Triple H tear his quad in June of 2001, come back in 2002 in January, early January, just in time for the Rumble,
Yeah.
and he wins. Now, I don't know if it's similar, I don't know. I just think that...
Oh, well, yeah, you had Triple H tear his quad in June of 2001.
Yeah.
Have the surgery and then rehab and come back in time for the Royal Rumble of 2002. You have Cody tear his pec ahead of the Hell in a Cell match in October?
Yeah, I think it was October.
October. Got the surgery done, and then rehab and again come back in time for the Royal Rumble this year.
Yeah.
Now, it's a less of a time period because for Triple H it was 8 months. For Cody it was like 5.
Yeah.
So I mean,
But, I mean, if Cody doesn't win, and no, I'm not gonna think The Rock is coming back.
no.
So, we'll get there when we get there. But this was a really good Rumble, in my opinion. And I thought about this before we did the video because the next video we're gonna do, 2016. And who won that Rumble?
Well, it was Triple H again.
So we'll talk
For the title. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get there.
So I'm Matt, and this is Killer Kyle, and we will talk to you in a while.
And we leave you now with a smile. Peace.
Bye.